TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, it's the Midday Market Report with Jeff Dawson.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of the week for the Midday Market Report with Andrew McInnis, good friend and colleague. Yes, I put 3 o'clock up there. But anytime me and Andrew have a show, give us about a half hour. We do a lot of talking. We get a lot of good stuff from our chats on a day-to-day basis. We have a lot to catch up over the weekend. So now we're here. Happy belated Father's Day to everyone out there. I hope everyone had a great, not just a great weekend. A lot of sports on tap, from the U.S. Open, NBA, NHL, CFL. The Elks go down again, but me and Andrew will get to that as well. But first and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsor and partnership, WagerWire. If you have not downloaded the app, head on over to Google Play, download it. It's free. If you'd like to join this amazing team and community, send an email to affiliate@wagerwire.com. Zach, Travis, the rest of the team and community, some of them at Omaha, watching the college baseball World Series. Shout out to Matt and Q, too, from the NCAA Insiders. They'll be here on Friday, as they were in Omaha cheering their teams in as well. So a lot to catch up with Andrew here. Short time. He's a busy man, and we're just blessed to have him here. So the star of the show, Mr. Andrew McInnis.
Good afternoon.
What is up, Andrew?
What's up? Look at you at the Garden, getting ready for the game tonight after that tough Game 4 performance. Jeff, we asked the viewers on my channel on Friday, will we see some Game 5s? And we're seeing 2. Pretty much the same thing from the Mavericks and the Oilers. They both figure it out. They both get going, and they both extend the series. So I'm excited, Jeff, as a sports fan, as a sports bettor. And of course, as the CFL, I love starting the week off here on your channel, talking CFL. It keeps me sharp, keeps me prepared, and I got to have some picks and some thoughts ready. So I hope you had a great weekend. I saw some great pictures, and I'm ready to rock here.
Shout out to Mr. Daniel Berry, Sports Highlights. As always, thank you so much for joining us. A busy weekend. As I was talking backstage, so much going on. We were fixated a lot on the U.S. Open. We had in our alert on Wednesday, Bryson DeChambeau, 20-1 is one of our pre-flop selections. We bought into Rory on Saturday at 4-1. But what's really fascinating for us is, we had the Tony Finau's. We had the Patrick Cantlays at 67-1. We had the Russ Henley. So we had the board peppered. So much social media. Good guy, bad guy, villain, hero. Everyone turning Rory into the choke artist, and no one talking about Bryson, who started the day with the 3-shot lead and couldn't hit a fairway if you handed a 9-iron to him and told him just to hit it straight. But the ego, in my write-up, I says he has the creativity to win this tournament. He'd been knocking on the door at the Masters and the PGA. The problem that I saw potentially was the patience, and he was able to prevail. Not a funny stat. I really feel for Rory. I do. It's been 10 years since he won a major. Going into yesterday, and to 16, where he missed a 3-foot putt. And then on 18, he missed a 3-foot putt. He was 496 for 496 for 3-foot and in, and he misses both those putts, considered a choke artist, and the rest is history. So crazy on that end. But you're here. Let's start some CFL. What did you see over the weekend in the CFL?
Well, Jeff, that's my mistake. I have to say congratulations to you on that one. That is huge. And the way that you are absolutely just cornering the board, and people throw around the expression in this industry about cornering the market. You've done a good job at these majors of having not one, not two, but multiple guys in the mix. So congrats to you and your clients. I dip my toes in every now and then with the PGA, and every time I hear about one of these weekends you're having, I'm wishing I didn't just keep on going with you. But congratulations. I'm keeping things tight, as you know. Throughout the week, we're dabbling with the props. We're dabbling with MLB. NBA's been there. But the CFL is my mainstay. The CFL is my main sports. What did I notice? Well, there were two games that I called overreaction week games, and we were going to find out which ones we could have success off. And we did. We gave out on the show both last Monday here on the Midday Market Report on my channel on Friday. It was the Montreal Alouettes coming off a huge point spread win and outright win over the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And they had played the Elks. It was their second straight road game. Of course, the Elks lose the game, as you mentioned off the top, but they cover the point spread off a late drive. But I will say, I thought the Elks were the right side there as far as the point spread. One thing to notice, though, Jeff, and I know that over the past few years, I've definitely made it look like my bias is kicking in as far as the Canadian quarterback. But if you listen to the commentary and social media and everything, they paid McLeod Bethel Thompson a boatload of CFL type money for him to not look so sharp to start off this season. For him to throw 2 interceptions in the fourth quarter, or at least it was the second half, and you've got a young Trey Ford on the bench, the question is, how embarrassing would it be if they go and put the rookie in, or put the young guy in, I should say, after you just paid this guy a bunch of money? So that's time will tell as far as that, but the point spread comes through. And the second one was BC. And again, we needed a late play to cash the ticket. I will say that. I will acknowledge it. It wasn't by any means an easy point spread cover, but BC was playing Calgary, who just came off a game where they put up 32 points against Hamilton. Everybody in the world seemed to love that Calgary point spread, thinking they were getting that many points, but BC is a different beast at home. And if we're going to talk about home versus road splits, I would say BC is one team to keep your eye on. One thing important about BC, Jeff, they do play inside a dome. So they can just have their offense. They can sling it as much as they want. And in these Canadian summers, you want to make sure you know the weather, as I had to deal with that on Thursday with the 5% play being suspended for over 45 minutes. They're marching the field. I needed a touchdown, needed 7 points to get the win as far as my over is concerned. And ultimately, after the 45-minute delay, they get down to the 7. They have 3 tries. They don't punch it in. And to close it out, it was a 13-point comeback Sunday night for the Rough Riders over Hamilton. And those two teams will meet again in the first set of many home-and-home series in the CFL. What are we, just in week 3 now, and we're already getting it back-to-back? They couldn't be more creative with this schedule. I don't know what's up with them, Jeff, but here they are giving us a back-to-back.
Russell Saylor, welcome. Hope you had a good Father's Day weekend. I like to say weekend because, hey, we get a weekend and the mothers and the Mother's Day get the rest of the year. Congrats on Bryson. Yeah, we're 3 for 3 in the majors. Scheffler, we had a 2-unit play on the Masters. Schauffele boxed the wire. I think around 11-1 on the PGA. And then Bryson had some bigger tickets there. nipping away. I really loved when my eyes were on Cantlay and Finau, and then Henley had, I think, the best round on Sunday of anyone. So we'll keep plugging along. Got a few more tournaments before the British Open. We'll see where our eyes are there. Friday on your channel, I talked about the love affair I had with BC. I talked to you and your listeners, first half, team total, full game. And then, you said on Saturday, actually today, surprised we only gave out the Baltimore on the at 4:00, and I didn't come back at night for the MLB for the week. We're at +7 units. We had an amazing week for the ECSI VIPs. The numbers for me, we talk on Monday. We talk again on Friday, and then again, game day, there's some movement. So I didn't like the 5. I would have liked it at 6.5, to be honest with you. But when it's too close to what the full game is, I backed off. And the 29.5 30s were down to 29, and I'm starting to scratch my head. And again, the opening number, some actual 9s, 8.5s, it lands on 9, so spot on. Congrats there. I'm on Spank Odds right now. I have some early opening numbers I'll throw at you. Montreal at home against Ottawa on the 20th, so that's Thursday. Opened at 7 with a 47.5. On Friday, BC at Winnipeg. Winnipeg could go to 0-3. Winnipeg opened at 1.5. Still 1.5. A couple 2s, 2 at DraftKings. Saturday, Edmonton at Toronto opened at 5.5 with a 49.5, 6 with a 49.5 at DraftKings. And then, as you said, Sunday, Hamilton, Saskatchewan, they're going to play it back 50.5 with a 3. There is a 3.5 at DraftKings with a 50.5. For me, in my eyes, initially, I'd be jumping back on Hamilton. I know Saskatchewan Sunday night at home. I'm replaying the tapes. I know how they play at home. But I kind of like Hamilton catching the 3 and a hook. I know it's 3 at a lot of places. I don't think that will get to 4. I think it will stay at that 3 number. Thoughts on next Sunday's game?
Well, we'll start from the last one. It's easier for me to remember what the last one was that you mentioned there, Jeff. And for me, a CFL betting style and strategy I've used for several years at this point has just been, when you have these back-to-backs, to bet on the team that lost the week before. Bet on the team that just faced some adversity. And I know it sounds so simple, but it happens all the time. I'm talking point spreads up towards a touchdown. We had to sprinkle on the money line for the team that lost the next week. And so, but the funny thing is here for this one, the opening number did catch me off guard. I'll say that. And of course, like I always tell you, and you mentioned it, Saskatchewan, one of the best home fields in the CFL. Here's my concern. If you watch the game and even if you look at the numbers, Saskatchewan, Jeff, took a ton of penalties. And if the variance card plays out at all, like even if they take like half as many or even a little bit less than that, they took, misconduct calls, pushing after the whistle, offside, roughing the passer, anything you can talk about, any type of weird CFL rule people don't even know. Hell, there was one play where the Saskatchewan Roughriders fumbled the ball, or they created a fumble. The guy with no helmet on grabbed the ball, and it should have been a fumble. And, of course, my free play of the week last week was Saskatchewan, and they actually ended up taking that away because a player without a helmet on isn't allowed to grab the ball. So a lot of weird things happened in that game. And so it's one of those games where I almost kind of would have rathered Saskatchewan not pull off the victory, because then I'd be more likely to come back on them this week. But now, as you mentioned, the 3 in the hook there, I kind of would lean towards the Saskatchewan side. Let me throw this out there. I think that Hamilton overall this season is going to be an over team. Their defense they're getting cooked. I mean, for lack of better words, they are getting shredded. I mean, if you need a stop from them late in the game, they can't get it for you. If you're in 3 down territory and pretty much every drive, every play, every first down, the Saskatchewan Riders knew, okay, we're going to have 3 downs to make a play here because it's all in or nothing here. You give them 3 downs against Hamilton's defense, they're going to keep it going. But at the same time, that game that we saw from Bo Levi Mitchell might have been one of his best games we're going to see from him over the next few weeks, and they lose. That's a concern for me. And here's something to mention as well. Stearns gets injured and Bain Jr. gets injured. 2 of the best receiving players on the Riders. A gut instinct, I kind of like the under in this game. And we try and respect the numbers, follow the numbers, and not just betting teams, right? And when I take a look at the number here as far as the totals, seeing it get into the 50s, it's not easy in any league, right, to get to the 50s. And, we saw it get over, but a lot of the reason it got over was because of the Saskatchewan late comeback. Bo Levi Mitchell finishes with 300+ yards, has the game of his season so far, but over the past few years, I'd say. And can he do that again, Jeff, on the road? That's my question. You got a depleted receiving core. You got a Riders team that seems to always play better defense at home. You got a Hamilton team that I think is going to have to run the ball more because they can't trust their team on defense. They need to kill more clock, right? Like I was saying to you backstage, it's so much harder to kill the clock in the CFL. So I might stay off the side altogether and take a play on the under in this one. And you know how I said a lot of times I'll look towards the opposite thing to happen in the first meeting. Well, it still is the opposite thing happening, except for we're not picking the side. We're just picking the total this time.
I'll refresh. Edmonton, Toronto, a 6 with a 49.5. Does Edmonton, who was supposed to be the upstart team, I think an under-over team, 6.5 for the season, now 0-2. Glad to get that first road game. I think get out of Dodge, and a Toronto team offensively, we know what they can do. The defense, opened at 49.5, 49 in a couple shops, 49.5's there. My quick math here, the old 28-21. That's what they got this one at to start.
Well, look ahead line. Now that we actually do have some look ahead lines at some books, was -6 in this one. So, the schedule hasn't been easy for the Edmonton Elks because their first game was against the Saskatchewan Riders, that I think is a really good team. But Saskatchewan just proved they had to have back-to-back weeks with 13-point comebacks. So how good are they? We'll find out when they play some better teams. And then following that one, they play at home again against the defending Grey Cup champion, Montreal Alouettes. And, well, if it wasn't for 2 interceptions from McLeod Bethel-Thompson, they could have had a chance to win that game outright. But instead, Edmonton ends up getting the backdoor point spread cover, and they weren't able to come out with that one. And, of course, here, Jeff, it's our first situation to look to bet on a team following a bye. I guess we could have done that as well last week with Ottawa, but this is a team that's already played a game in Toronto in week 1. They get an early week 2 bye, and they're coming out here in week 3. I like the points here. I want to lay it here with this Toronto team. Part of me is convinced that the first half could be a play, but I haven't had a great read with those first halves early in the season. It's almost like when you have a point spread like this, that's 5 or 6 points or higher, you almost want the full game to have time to play out. Have your handicap and have your thought process get 4 quarters to play out. And again, I know I'm fortunate maybe for that late kick in the BC Lions game, but of course they don't cash the first half, and you give them 4 quarters, they'll put up the points in order to cover that full game. So this is a spot here where you have a Toronto team that I feel people still do not respect. They don't respect them, Jeff. I look at this game without you put Chad Kelly as the quarterback of Toronto right now. What's the point spread in this game? That's what I'm wondering. That's what I want to know. I want to talk to whoever these people are at different books that are making the lines. Who are the copycat people who are actually making lines as the openers for the CFL? Because Cameron Dukes looked pretty good in the opening week win. And their defense looked good. Their run game looked definitely serviceable, even after losing a few guys. And the thing for Edmonton is, I don't think their quarterback play is going to get much better. I don't think their defense is going to get much better. I said this on a video last week, and I'll keep saying it. If you're into fantasy, if you're into, underdog, prize picks, DraftKings, or if you're just betting the player props, you need to take a look at betting the player prop rushing yard over against with any guy playing against the Elks, because their rushing defense is so abysmal that if Toronto can get their rushing offense going and use Kadeem Carey quite often, I feel like that will open up their offense. And one thing about the Elks, again, we saw them kind of having a lead on the Riders, so they haven't had to deal with being down too many points. Against the Alouettes, they weren't down too many points. What happens if the Argos go up 10-0? And the game plan for the Elks has to be, okay, we can't just play a boring style. We have to take shots downfield. We can't just throw the ball a couple yards. We have to start extending our range with our throws. That's where I think this team turns into a disaster. So gut feeling is, you and I are talking on Friday, this game could be 7.5 points.
BC, Winnipeg. Does Winnipeg go to 0-2 right now? We'll use DraftKings 2-51. They're expecting a shootout here. First one to, let's say, 24. First one to 27 might win this game, maybe 28. I haven't seen Squadouche from Winnipeg. We know what the Lions can do. Maybe we finally see some fire in the belly. Kind of surprised at the under-over being in the 50s, because I haven't seen anything from Winnipeg yet this year.
Me either, Jeff. And it's so weird because at this point, we're 2 weeks in. Do we handicap based on our preseason rankings still, or do we handicap based on what we've seen? Because to me, that is the biggest question you have to ask yourself about this game. And also, there's going to be the people that say, well, Winnipeg won't go 0-3. Winnipeg's not going to lose 3 straight. And, throughout my time in the industry, reading lines, learning from people like yourself, I've learned one thing. When I see an opener at -3 for Winnipeg and they're 0-2, and then it starts to take a little bit of money the other way, usually when a line seems fishy, you probably take the side that looks fishy. And I know that doesn't sound like the most advanced breakdown by any means, but think about it. In the NHL, how often do we see a line that you're scratching your head thinking, why is this team that short of a favorite? And the underdog will win 3-1 that night. Or, in the MLB, you got Pinnacle that's holding -115 on this team. Meanwhile, DraftKings has -125 on that team. And, to me, it's very interesting. But Dalton Schoen, he did not practice today. Brady Oliveira, he did not practice today. And Johnny Augustine, who's the second string running back, he didn't look the same as Brady Oliveira plays. And I feel like Zach Collaros is underthrowing a lot of guys right now. He's not doing a good job of dealing with a weaker offensive line that's only getting older. It's so important. Like, when you watch BC, I love watching BC play because they've got Vernon Adams Jr., who actually has the ability to escape the pocket and make plays with his legs. And a lot of these CFL quarterbacks, the veterans especially, they're getting up there in age that they're either throwing a great pass or they're getting sacked. Like Trevor Harris, one thing I will give respect yesterday to Hamilton for, they sacked Harris like 5 or 6 times. And Collaros can get sacked as well. So again, I'm going to play contrarian. Maybe BC wins, maybe Winnipeg wins. I kind of think the under might be the play, because if we're basing on what we've seen so far, Jeff, we haven't seen much out of the Winnipeg offense. So do they keep doing what I always say on your show every week and trying to make every play a 30-yard pass, or does the offensive coordinator make an adjustment? What do you think about that? I mean, those 2 games I mentioned, and then, of course, one obviously is a more high-profile game. But as you said, we see the open 51. Some spots have 50.5. Some spots even showing 50s. I think it takes a lot to get to 52 points in the CFL.
No, you're right. It does. But again, the sense of urgency, Winnipeg 0-3. I called them Loserpeg on your show on Friday. Again, there's going to be, this is actually the best here. So if you say 3.5, there was only one way that number could go, and that's obviously to the BC side. If you saw 1.5 and it went up to 3, well, they're getting what they wanted, the Winnipeg money. I just think just based upon numbers and reading the market, two things. I think you're going to see a sense of urgency from Winnipeg. I think you're going to see a bounce back, that threat of 0-3. So on Monday, I would say I kind of like them in the first half, especially to show that sense of urgency. And as you said, you can score on BC, and that number was set at a high number for a reason, and it's coming back down. So. Yeah. Is this the game Winnipeg gets to 30? Is this that 30-24 game? Is this 24-24 late score by Winnipeg 30-24? And that's how you get into the low 50s.
And that's just the thing. It's all about the offense, the offensive style that they play with, because I will say this, Winnipeg's defense, I trust a hell of a lot more than I trust Calgary's defense, right? And you look at BC so far, they've played Toronto, and they've played Calgary, as I mentioned. So I think you look at the game, because Calgary and BC was quite the track meet, right? And that had some higher scoring. That had both teams getting into higher numbers there. But I think sometimes you look at these two high scoring teams, but you also look, and if we bring it up, we'll take a flash to the past and look at the 2023 CFL statistics. Winnipeg was the number 1 defensive team. BC was the number 2 defensive team. And you look at the passing yards allowed, Winnipeg was the number 1 team. BC was the number 4 team. So I understand it's a new year. And again, I even said it myself, we can't base everything off last year anymore. But as of right now, I'd lean towards the under. I find it a very interesting game as far as the point spread's concerned, because you've got two different types of people. You've got the people that are going to rock with Winnipeg at home to avoid going 0-3, and the people that have watched their first 2 games saying, I don't know who this team is, but it's not the Winnipeg I know, and they're going to fade them. So, Jeff, like I'm sure you know what I mean by, the weird numbers, right? You're going to have a lot. I just feel like this is one of those games where you're going to have people just throwing stuff at their TV thinking, where the hell was this Winnipeg team the first 2 weeks? And like you said, in the first half, when they put up 14 points, it's going to be a different team. But is that a little bit of a reach? I mean, like I said, their starting running back didn't practice again today. Their number 1 receiver didn't practice again today. So I'm going to stick with the under for the show's purpose.
Saturday, you're sitting at home with a bunch of buddies and you're getting ready for a hockey game, and the Oilers, on life support, and Dave Portnoy sweating bullets because he's going to lose $250,000 that no one's talking about. But it's one of those like the Celtics in Game 4. Which team's going to show up? Is this going to be one of these, hey, we're going to not let you, but we're not going to put that full effort in, and the home teams now, the Celtics and the Panthers, hey, we'll go back home, we'll win in front of our home team. It sounds so theatrical, Hollywood-esque. Bob pulled after 5 goals, hadn't had a breather in a while anyways. Edmonton, touchdown, 2-point conversion, 8-1 win. And I'm going to have you talk about that. I'm also going to say this, though. The opening number at Circa was Panthers minus 130, excuse me. Oilers plus 119, 5.5 juiced under minus 15 cents. Hasn't moved at Circa. Now, for me, I would have respected the Panthers a lot more if I saw that 146, 148, 150 number. So the public's going to run, and I can get McDavid plus 130, plus 125, get me to that window. Why? We remember what we saw last. I think Mr. Benson might have a little, let's just say, hey, we got Panther lines right here. No pushing and shoving. Bob's fresh. They're going to win it at home in 5 in front of their crowd. Take us back to Saturday with the gang watching the game. What'd you see? And what are you thinking 24 hours before they drop that puck?
Yeah, it was a great time. Great time. I had a bunch of people together that I play basketball with every week, and a lot of hockey fans in the room, and I think a lot of nervousness too. But all of us cheering for the same team, of course. And what we saw was it was almost like a team playing with nothing to lose. They played like Oilers hockey. They played like themselves. They played freely almost. It's almost like the Oilers weren't playing tight. They were playing road hockey out there. They were playing shinny out there, like we say. They were playing to have fun, which is funny because I'm sure it's not an easy thing to do when you're down 0-3 in a series. But at the same time, your crowd is going absolutely crazy. You've got the crowd behind you. You're playing at home. You might as well go out there and play fast Oilers hockey. That's what they did, Jeff. They didn't worry about the scrums. They didn't worry about the hits. They didn't worry about playing to Florida's level. They worried about playing their own hockey. And I think the biggest thing I can look at is that, yeah, McDavid broke a record as far as the assists in the playoffs. He had several points. But what is the old adage about the Oilers that people always say? The team will have success in games that they can win where guys like Leon and Connor aren't the main guys. And the bottom six, Adam Henrique playing super well, Janmark playing super well, Connor Brown playing really well. They got the shorthanded goal. That's what stood out to me the most. This team had depth. And after every goal, guess who Chris Knobloch sent out? Not the first line, not the second line, not the third line, the fourth line gets sent out. And that's one thing I've been learning a lot more about the game myself, is watching about which line coaches send out after you score. It's a thing with the Maple Leafs. They in the playoffs would send out a third or fourth line when they probably should have just sent out their good line again. But some teams like the Oilers, when they get a goal from McDavid, it's good to send out their sandpaper line, right? Hey, we're not going to probably score for you, but we're not going to make any mistakes either. Bob getting pulled. I mean, how calm did he look when he got pulled? No reaction, no smack on the stick. He goes right to the bench. Hell, they're up 3-0. He can't really complain. Stolarz wasn't much better. I think it is exciting for them, Jeff, the fact that the Oilers could say, you know what, we didn't just win, we put up 8. But I said this to my friends, and it's funny because I did the show with you saying when we close it out, hey, I hope we get 1 or 2 game 5s, and here we are getting 2. If you think realistically and you think psychologically, I almost think that it'd be better if the Mavericks won by 5 points, if the Oilers won by 2 goals, because it almost creates some type of sense of confidence that might not, like an overconfidence. Like you're still down 3-1, but it's like, oh my God, we're going to go in and score 7 goals again the next game. And it's not that easy. And one thing that I said prior to the series, and I wish I took my own advice, but I haven't made a wager on all 4 games. I've dabbled, but I stayed off the game on Saturday. Every game at Florida went under, and every game in Edmonton went over. So if we're following that pattern with who gets the last change, we're following the pattern with each team playing to their style on their home ice. We saw 4-3 and we saw an 8-1 in Edmonton. I kind of like this game 5 to go under the total, Jeff. I know it's an elimination game and we're getting a 5.5, but you've made a lot of money cashing with your clients on the unders in elimination games. I know it's the Oilers. I know it's the Panthers. Lots of firepower. But I think that Paul Maurice knows what kind of team he has, and Chris Knobloch knows what kind of team he has, and it's 2 coaches that want to play different styles. Not that the Panthers can't score, but Bob will bounce back. This is going to be a lot tighter of a game. I would look towards under 5.5 in game 5.
Couple minutes left. I'm high above courtside. We're awaiting the Celtics to raise banner 18. Friday night, the Celtics lose at one point down 50. I think they lose by 40 or whatever. The Celtics hadn't had one of those brain fart games in a while. They had struggled in game 2s, whether it was the opening series without Jimmy Butler and a few other characters from the Heat. And then they did the same thing against the Cavaliers, double-digit favorites at home, lost outright. But then they had put 10 road wins in a row. And they were just cruising, and you could tell right away they don't change their style offensively. They just launch, and keep launching. Now, I was on Sports Grid last night with Joe Ranieri, with Scott Wetzel. We talked about this game, and I'll say this: the Celtics and this crowd is going to be electric. Now, with that said, Kyrie finally got the monkey off of his back to finally beat the Celtics. The first time, I think it was 13 or 14 in a row he had lost since he left the Celtics and went to Brooklyn. I said, Luka's going to get his. The supporting cast is going to get this. Do the Celtics come out of the gate, hit 7 out of their first 8 threes, or do they go 1 for 9? They only get back to Dallas. This has to be a Kyrie game. Kyrie's got to get that mid-30s. He's got to be dishing. He's got to be hitting the threes. No turnovers. Let Luka get his and the supporting cast. If Kyrie comes in here and starts 1 for 7, it's lights out. It's done. Yep. It's over. Thoughts on tonight's game? If you have any props or anything you're looking at in tonight's NBA game?
Jeff, I'm seeing at DraftKings full game total 210.5 here. First half total 107.5. Some places are getting close to the 108 number. And I kind of noticed that. And again, I've learned a lot from you about reading the market. I'm interested in the first half over. If I see a number like that much different than the full game overall, I think we're going to see a lot of points early and often in this game. I think the crowd's going to be into it. I think the three-point shooting will be back from the Boston Celtics. I think the tempo that we saw the Dallas Mavericks play, and who would have thought tempo would benefit this Mavericks team? Let's be honest. Luka is great, but sometimes he's a victim of just wanting to dribble, do his stutter steps, do his hesitations, and it's good, but it doesn't get his teammates involved. Game 4, he saw Lively up the court, pass it up. Alley-oop to Gafford up the court, makes a play. Kyrie gets the ball, pushes the tempo, drives it himself. If we could find a stat on time of possession, or the time of possession per shot clock for the Dallas Mavericks in game 1 or game 4 versus game 3, it would have to be, I would say, about 5 to 6 seconds less. It really would, because this team was not dribbling the clock out. They were not searching for the right pass. They were kind of just free flowing. And Joe Mazzulla, some of his quotes after the game, I get it. He's a locked in coach. He said our defensive spacing was not good. We did not help each other. We didn't communicate. So I think that Dallas is going to come out with that same tempo that they played with. But I also think the spacing and the way that the Boston Celtics three-pointer shooters can spread the floor will help get this over the total. And now we haven't seen the first half total go over in either of the first 4 games to start off this series. So people will say, what are you doing? Why are you betting the first half over in this game? Well, Jeff, the number has gotten lower and lower and lower and lower and lower in all of these games. So now we're at the point where we're saying, do we want to jump in on the other side, right? Do you see a 111.5? Do you see a 112.5? Because I'm seeing 107.5, and that's about as low as a number we've seen for the first half total in this series. So that's what I like, the over 107.5 first half, because I do worry that if the Celtics do win the championship tonight, and I'll put it on record, I think if you like Dallas, you're taking them on the money line, because I don't think they're going to cover the spread if they lose. I think if they lose the game, they're losing by double digits. A few of the props that I do like tonight, Derek White over on his assist number, I think is a good one. The guy's been a machine with his three-pointers, with his passing. He even gets some rebounds. I feel like they've kind of missed out. Over 3.5 assists for him. I'll take a look at. Kyrie, I think, again, he has to be big with his points. But one thing I've gone back to, because he wasn't getting it going with his points in Boston in games 1 and 2, he was cashing his over on rebounds and assists. That's currently listed at 8.5. I'm going to look towards the over on that one, combined number. That way, hey, if he has a good night shooting wise and he scores, that's great. But if not, we'll just worry about the rebounds and assists. And Jason Tatum, we're going to go under on his assists, under 6.5. I think he will attack the bucket. I think he will be a lot more of a facilitator, but at the same time, it's not like the guy hasn't been shooting, and he still had a good finals. People are going after him, but he's not really the guy that's going to make the extra pass. A lot of times he's the one that's driving to finish the play and attack the bucket himself. So I'll look towards those few props. I also am going to still believe that PJ Washington is a guy that has to be a 3-point shooter for the Mavericks. His over 1.5 is chalked. It's like minus 175, 180. But I will remind people it's hit in 11 of the last 12 games they've played. If you wanted to get the plus price, you go over 2.5 made 3-pointers for PJ Washington. But it's going to be super interesting. I'm excited to see how this game unfolds. And I want to ask you, do you agree with my thoughts that if the Celtics cover, if the Mavericks cover, they win. If the Celtics win, they certainly cover. Do you agree with that or no?
No, I do. I think that the mentality for most, like the Panthers, like the Celtics, hey, that was a gift. Now it's time for a gentleman's sweep. We're going to reciprocate the ass whooping that you just gave us. And again, I think the Celtics can blow Dallas out in the first quarter. I was at the Pacers game 1, and the Celtics started the game 12-0, and then they finally called the timeout. Pacers regrouped, should have won the game in regulation and threw the ball away, and then lost it in overtime. Should have won it in overtime and had a couple turnovers there. So I agree with that thought process. If Dallas, if you like Dallas, you can get them at around 6.5, 7 tonight. But obviously you got to sprinkle some beer and pizza money on the money line. Again, I think if it's close, I think if Kyrie has a Kyrie type game, I wouldn't be shocked. Trust me, I would not be shocked if we were heading back for a game 6 in Dallas. Russell Saylor says Luka hasn't hit 33 points in 7 of 10 games. And then he says Luka has scored 13 first quarter points in the last 3 games. The play is to wait and play is over after they adjust to 36.5 or higher. And then Pizza and Beer Money has hit 3 games in a row. Luka alternate first quarter, 12 points plus parlayed with his under at 850. So Russell, of course, you are the sharpest tack in the hardware store. We can't thank you enough for your thoughts. I can't wait for this year and the football to be talking Mr. Colts and Mr. Richardson. We got some weeks to talk about that. Standing room only. Thanks to everyone watching here. If you haven't jumped over to YouTube, please follow and subscribe to East Coast Sports Investors while you're there. Mayflower Sports and Andrew's channel, of course. Scroller's been going the whole time. Everyone here knows where to find you at McInnis Picks, at WagerTalk. But as we always close, Andrew, tell them what you got working for them at WagerTalk this week.
Yeah, of course, as we always mention, you heard a lot of my early CFL takes, but if you guys want to get on board full-time with my CFL picks, you get them right to your email. Sign up for long-term. We got a good deal going right now, Jeff. Not a short-term 3-day or 7-day. It's a 1-month deal, but if people at home, if they buy July, you get the rest of June for free. So you're buying a month, you're getting a month and a half. The sooner you buy this special, the more days you get. So if you buy it today, you get the rest of June. You buy it tomorrow, you're still getting the rest of June. Buy July, get the rest of June for free. We're talking CFL, we're talking MLB, the rest of NBA and NHL, and the occasional UFC plays thrown into there as well. So that's the best deal going on right now at WagerTalk. And if you want my CFL action, but you don't want to jump on for the full season, that's a lot of weeks. You're going to get about 6 weeks. If you buy the month of July, you're going to get June for absolutely free. So always a pleasure being here with you, Jeff. Keeps us sharp. And hey, let's get some game 6s. I spoke it into existence last time. Let's get some game 6s here. How about that?
Sounds like a plan. I'm not sure if Riley will be here at 5 for the closing bell, but at 7 o'clock, must-watch TV, Brady Tinker, DFW Sports Beat, the voice of Texas, I like to say. We're going to talk Dallas. We were going to come on Friday, and it was a scheduling conflict. And I says, don't worry, we'll be on Monday when you're when you make it to game 5, because he wanted to vent obviously about game 3. So we'll be talking some Mavericks. We'll get an update on what's going on in Dallas for the Cowboys and also his favorite team, the Kansas City Chiefs. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Investor, one and only Mr. Andrew McInnis at McInnis Picks. Shout out, as always, to Mr. Saylor and Mr. Berry. Thank you guys and everyone else watching. It's a new week. Stay in those lanes. Just because you had a big week with the ECSI VIPs, or you had Bryson, or you had the Elks in the backdoor cover, and you got some extra money, that doesn't mean we got to give it back. Save it for a rainy day. We'll see you soon.